Then in verse 19, you start the account of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Isaac became the father of Isaac. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramean. But now there's an obstacle to the blessing. What's the obstacle? She's barren. What is going on here? God constructs circumstances where his blessing cannot be fulfilled in order to fulfill his blessing. Why?
Gives him more glory.
Gives him the glory, and it helps people trust him more. Something dawned on me a few weeks ago. I want to share with you. It won't shake you the way it shook me. It will seem obvious to you, but it shook me. I've been thinking about our life with the Lord in our glorification. Thinking, what is our life going to be like? Why has God done all that he has done to get us to the point of serving him forever? The Lord saved me when I was 51 years ago. It's taken me 51 years to get where I am. Basic training in the Army is only 8 weeks.
Right.
Is it still 8 weeks?
8 weeks.
All right. It's only 8 weeks to make a basic soldier. Not much use, but it's basic soldier.
Fodder.
Takes 8 weeks.
Fodder.
Yeah, make you good cannon fodder. You still need advanced training to make you a better soldier, but 8 weeks to make you a basic soldier. But to make me a servant of God that's qualified for service in my glorified form, it's taken 51 years to get me where I am. And however much longer I live, if I live 70, I got 12 years left. So he may spend 63 years preparing me for service that I will render in my glorified form. What kind of service is it? Well, folks, the Lord puts so much emphasis on faith. Faith must be a very important part of what our service is going to be like. I'm not sure what that means, but that shook me. What is our eternal service to God going to be like? It may be that God is going to put us in increasingly difficult, impossible circumstances where we will be the evidence that God is trustworthy. And we will lead others, perhaps, to trust in God, in other creations, to trust in God as they face these increasingly difficult circumstances. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure what that means. I say it to you, you might think that that's absolutely obvious and mundane, but it just shook me when I thought of that. Folks, I want you to begin to sense how important faith is to God. We think of our service as important to God, but our service is the expression of our faith. John MacArthur said years ago, made a statement that was just wonderful. He said, our service is the overflow of our relationship with God. That's a crucial statement, folks. If our service is the overflow of our relationship with God, the essence of our relationship with him is faith. Then our service is the outflow of our faith. Then far more important than our service is our faith relationship with God. Am I making sense here? God spent 100 years with Abraham preparing him for faith. Was he done in Genesis 22? Was faith over for Abraham in Genesis 22? He's got 35 years where he can sit back and drink tea. Iced tea, not hot tea. Is that what it is? Probably not. 35 more years of struggles and trusting God. But the story here ends with Genesis 22 and his faith in God. Do you follow this? My point is to say, faith must be awfully, awfully important. Then, brothers and sisters, it seems to me, if I'm reading this right, and I may be dead wrong, I may be dreadfully wrong, all I can do and all I should do as a teacher is to passionately, in a convinced way, present to you the result of my study so that you can examine it and see if it's true. That's really all I should ever do as a teacher. I can't impose this on you. I propose it to you, but never impose it on you. But if what I'm saying is accurate, then it has a vector for our ministry. Our ministry must not be getting people to conform. Our ministry must be helping people to learn to trust God. But the bad thing about that as the philosophy of ministry is I can never, in fact, cause you to trust God. That's ultimately a work of the Holy Spirit, and therefore I'm more likely to give that up and go back to get people to conform to us to a set of rules, because it's easier. I can get even non-believers to conform to the set of rules. I can't get non-believers to believe. I can't even get believers to believe. I got unbelieving believers. Abraham's an example. I come to Jacob and Esau here. Of course, God fulfills the promise by opening the womb and giving her twins, and the elder shall serve the younger. Yes? Because the younger is such a much more wonderful person than the elder is. Jacob cheats Esau out of the birthright, or does he? Verse 30. So Esau said to Jacob, "Feed me some of the red stuff. Yes, this red stuff, because I'm starving." That's why he's called Edom, red. Edom means red. Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." "Look," said Esau, "I'm about to die. What use is the birthright to me?" Jacob said to him, "Swear an oath to me now." So Esau swore an oath to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. The birthright is not identical to the blessing. They are different. But they are related. The blessing is the barakah. Barakah. Say it. Barakah.
Barakah.
The birthright is the bekorah. You hear the relationship between them? Hebrew frequently will use puns to underscore the meaning of a story. And so here, it doesn't do puns for humor. It does puns for underscoring the message of a passage. So here, they're not identical, but they are related. Does he really cheat him? He manipulates him, but does he cheat him? No. Esau knows exactly what he's doing.
Why doesn't Esau just beat him up? I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. Because he's a dim bulb. If one bowl of stew is going to save him from death, then he's not that near death.
right.
Yes? So Esau is a man who is driven by his belly. And he can't keep a thought in his mind very long. We'll show you that. Chapter 26, you have Isaac and Abimelech. And here Isaac lies about his wife and is protected by God. Then you have verse 12. This is one of the great passages of Genesis, folks. We run by this too quickly. Isaac and the wells. Isaac is living among the Philistines. They drive him off. He's opened the wells that his father had dug, and they drive him off. So he moves out, and he opens up some more wells that Abraham had dug, and the Philistines drive him off. Then he goes out further, and he digs new wells, and he hits water, and they drive him away from that, and he digs more wells, and he hits water, and then the event unfolds a bit. And at the end, the servants come and said, "We've dug a well and hit water." Isaac is the Hebrew equivalent of Jed Clampett. He was shooting at some food, and up through the ground come a bubbling crude. But every time he digs, he hits water. I had a student in my class in Memphis. Memphis is in the floodplain of the Mississippi River. I don't know what you know about geology, but one of the factors that influences rivers is that you have to have a water table high enough for the river to flow. Are you with me here? Rivers always start out so small and then they get so big. At Memphis, the Mississippi is three-quarters of a mile wide. I've heard how many millions of gallons of water go by there, by Memphis every minute. It's incredible, just a huge flow. It's dangerous there at Memphis. And this fellow in my class dug wells for farms in the East Arkansas, West Tennessee area. I said, we were in this passage, and I said, how often do you dig a well and you hit water? He said, 1 in 4. And that's in the floodplain of the Mississippi River. Here, Isaac is living in an area like southern Arizona. And I think I remember correctly, I don't have this marked in this book, in this Bible, but I think there are 7 different times they dig and find water. Every time he puts a spade to earth, he hits water. Why doesn't Isaac stay and fight for the wells his father dug? Why? He says he's trusting God. Why do you say that? You're right. But why is that right?
Isaac was very protected by his father, especially after the sacrifice, and he didn't have to go through all the adversities his father did, so he's not much of a fighter.
There might be another reason. What is the relationship that Isaac has to the people of the land? Say again?
It's just a guess, but son of the prince.
Yeah. What was Abraham's relationship to the people of the land? Sojourner. What is Isaac's? He's a foreigner. He's a sojourner. He has no rights. He doesn't have right to the wells. He doesn't fight for them because they're not his. They haven't been given to him by God yet.
It's not his land.
It's not his land. So he moves away, assuming that he has huge flocks and herds, which absolutely depend on water. It even hits an artesian well at one point. But he can move away because God will provide. How does he know that? Because God is the one who provides for the sojourner.
How do we see that in text?
Because every time they quarrel with him about the well, he moves away and leaves it and goes and digs another well, and God always provides the water. Read it again with this in mind and watch it as it unfolds. He never fights. He never stands up for himself, as it were, but he doesn't have to. He can't. He's a sojourner in the first place. In the second place, he doesn't have to because God will provide.
If they're in the middle of southern Arizona, why are these Philistines all filling up all these wells?
To get Isaac away, he's dangerous. He's like Abraham. He's a dangerous man whom God protects when he lies.
So are they willing to forfeit their own?
Well, see, if they keep a buffer between them, evidently the Philistines were not using those areas, or Isaac wouldn't have filtered into them. So, but they're creating a buffer between them and Isaac. He's getting too powerful. He's a dangerous man. This is really one of the places where you can really see the faith of Isaac. If Abraham can trust God as long as he has direction from God what to do, Isaac can trust God as long as he's forced into it. I was teaching that one day, teaching Genesis. And I thought, oh no, I have Isaac's faith. I don't like that. If God forces me into it, I'll really trust him, but I'm not going to stick my neck out. One of the ways we suggested to grow in faith is to actually pursue risky things that are challenging to you, the things that you're not sure will work, but you do it on the basis of the promise of God and the character of God, the plan of God. And then you grow in faith. Isaac doesn't grow in faith. But he's still a man of significant faith, and God honors faith even when it's not the greatest faith. Are you with me here? That's so comforting to me.
Yeah.
Chapter 27, Jacob cheats Esau out of the blessing. This is another one of the great stories of the Bible. You have several scenes in which a godly mother leads her godly son in loyal treatment of their father and brother to bring blessing in the family. Yes? I think there are 5 or 6 scenes in this passage that unfold as Rebekah leads Jacob to cheat Papa. Isaac wants to bless Esau. Why does Isaac want to bless Esau? Because of what? Say it again. The game that he brings in. Go out and hunt games such as I love so that I may bless you. What does so that I may bless you imply?
Man.
I can't bless you unless I have my belly full and that good food that you give. Where did Esau get the characteristic of being driven by his belly?
His dad.
And Isaac is not very sharp either, intellectually. Esau's not very sharp because he thinks one bowl of stew is going to save me from death. He's only been out hunting for at most a few days, and one bowl of stew is going to save him from death, right? So he's not very intelligent. Isaac's not very intelligent. You know the story, don't you? Right? At least you won't admit it because I required you to read the Bible, and so if you admit it, you're By the way, I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm doing that less now because I had some surgery over Christmas, and the Lord is allowing me to sleep again. But I wake up in the middle of the night and I worry, are the students reading the Bible? But then I remember I required them to read the Bible. And therefore I can go back and rest with confidence that you are doing it, because I know that Dallas Seminary students always do what is required. And I thank you for that. I feel so encouraged. And it allows me to sleep at night. Thank you for that blessing and gift to me. You would not take it away from me, would you?
No.
Thank you, thank you. So you have read Genesis 27. But Isaac sends Esau out to hunt. Rebekah sends Jacob in. How hairy was Esau when a goat skin will represent Esau's arm? Jacob comes into Isaac and he says, I've brought game because God prospered me. Mind you, Jacob doesn't mind lying as long as he doesn't get caught and recognized as a liar. But here he says, how did you come so quickly? God help me. Come over here, my son. The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. What possible reason would Esau have to imitate Jacob's voice? None. What possible reason would Jacob have to imitate Esau's arms? All reason. But Isaac can't figure that out.
He is old.
He's not that old, because it's going to be well after Jacob comes back from Haran that he dies. Now, what does he talk about? I'm going to die, and I gotta get the blessing to you. So go get me some food, because I'm going to die, and I'm going to just die. And so if I die, then I gotta have the blessing. Gotta have some food because I'm going to die. So he is a morbid, sad old man.
That's contrary.
Are you with me here? And yet he is righteous. How is he righteous? By faith. 28. Esau marries Canaanite wives. Rebekah says, these women are going to kill me if we don't get, if Jacob marries a Canaanite wife, this is going to be the death of me. So she plans to get Jacob out of town. Look at this, though. Verse 42, Genesis 27:42. When Rebekah heard what her older son Esau had said, she quickly summoned her younger son Jacob and told him, look, your brother Esau is planning to get revenge by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Run away immediately to my brother Laban in Haran. Live with him for a little while. Your text may say something slightly different from that. Live with him how long? A few days. Until your brother's rage subsides.
Well, he's bad memory.
Yeah, he can't keep a thought in his mind consistently. Stay there until your brother's rage against you subsides and he forgets what you did to him. Then I'll send someone to bring you back. Rebekah is scheming to protect her future. She doesn't want to lose both of her sons in the same day. If Esau kills Jacob, the rest of the family has to kill Esau. Revenger of blood, right? So she'll lose both of her sons in the same day. So she schemes to protect both of her sons and to keep Jacob for herself. But as far as the story is concerned, she never sees Jacob again.
Does she know more clearly what God's plan is for
the blessing? Yes. Go back to chapter 20.
If she ever told Isaac.
Yeah. Go back to chapter 25 and verse 23. The Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples will be separated from within you. She was very pregnant. 2 nations are in your womb. This was, she was great with child. So, one people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So, she knew from before their birth.
Dr. Allman,
Yes.
Is she she striving to make it take place, just like the whole birth of Abraham?
So this, again, Scheming to assist the promise of God, and it always creates more problems. Chapter 28, Jacob has gotten the blessing under false pretenses from Isaac, but he's gotten the blessing, and the blessing cannot be changed because he's a covenant mediator. He has spoken the word. It is God's word, and he recognizes that. And when Esau comes for the blessing, I can't give it to you. I don't have anything left. It has been given to Jacob, and he will be blessed. It was gotten under false pretenses, but it was the outworking of the plan of God. No wonder Isaac was frightened when Esau came in. He realized that none of his scheming had changed the plan of God. Chapter 28, the early verses, Isaac sends Jacob off with a kind of blessing to Haran to get a wife and to return. Then in verses 10 to 22, you get the legitimate gift of the blessing to Jacob. As at Bethel, he sees the angels of God ascending and descending on the ladder. You recall this. The word that's translated ladder, sulam, in Hebrew is cognate with the word that was a reference to the ramp that went around a ziggurat to get from the base to the top. And the king would go, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. He was going back to converse, and otherwise hobnob with his fellow wizards, if you recall that. The king in Babylon would go from the base of the ziggurat up to the shrine at the top to converse, and otherwise hobnob with his fellow gods. You follow this? The mountain, there's a theme in the Old Testament called the cosmic mountain theme. It's a fascinating concept. The gods in the ancient Near East are conceived to dwell on mountains, and man is on earth, so you have to go to the high place to get where the God is. The word that's translated high place in the Old Testament doesn't consistently mean high place. Sometimes it's in a valley, but typically you want your shrine on a hill or on the top of a mountain. And where there are no mountains, as in Mesopotamia, you build a mountain, a ziggurat. Did you happen to get around Babylon at all?
I got to Baghdad. But not
Yeah,
we
that's,
drove through that area.
Yeah,
as we were going,
but you didn't have time
we
to
went
stop.
north and
Yeah.
we left there to go through.
So the Bible has picked some of this up, and some of the imagery in the Bible is derived from this cosmic mountain idea. Look at Psalm 46 for just a second. Psalm 46, by the way, is the background for Luther's hymn, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." God is our strong refuge. He is truly our helper, same word, in times of trouble. For this reason, we do not fear when the earth shakes and the mountains tumble into the depths of the sea, when its waves and so forth. Verse 5. Verse 4. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. Have you ever looked at a map of Jerusalem? Are there any rivers there? There can't be, because it's at 2,700 feet above sea level, and both east and west is downhill, so there cannot possibly be. And it's limestone, so you can't have a river on the top of a limestone mountain. Are you with me? It's just geologically not even possible. All right? So Psalm 48 is wrong, or Psalm 46 is wrong. Psalm 48, the Lord is great and certainly worthy of praise in the city of our God, his holy hill. It is lofty and pleasing to look at, a source of joy to the whole earth. Mount Zion resembles the peaks of Zaphon. I don't know why they translate that way. It'd be interesting to read that. It is the city of the great king. Beautiful in elevation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion in the sides of the north, the city of the great king. Beautiful in elevation. Have you ever seen Jerusalem? Yeah, you go up, typically if you take a tour of Israel, you really need to, folks, you need to. But if you take a tour of Israel, a typical approach to Jerusalem is you go to Jericho, which is 900 feet below sea level, then you drive 17 miles up to Jerusalem, and you don't get to Jerusalem without crossing over Mount of Olives. And when you get on the Mount of Olives, you stop and look down on Jerusalem. So Jerusalem doesn't have a river. Psalm 46 says it does. Jerusalem is not exalted in elevation. Psalm 48 says it is. Well, what's going on? Well, these are the themes of the cosmic mountain. It's the city of the great king. It's where God dwells and manifests himself. Do you follow this? The theme is carried out in the prophets. There are a number of places in the prophets where it's found, but turn to Ezekiel 47. Yes, Ezekiel 47:1, page 998, if that's helpful to you. Then he brought me back to the entrance of the temple. Ezekiel 47:1. Then he brought me back to the entrance of the temple. I noticed that water was flowing from under the threshold. The mountain, the cosmic mountain, has river that flows from it and goes out to all the earth and brings life and blessing everywhere it goes. So here, this river, verse 7, when I have returned, I noticed that a vast number of trees on the banks of the river on both sides. He said to me, these waters go down toward the eastern region and flow down into the Arabah when they enter into the Dead Sea. Where the sea is stagnant, the waters become fresh. Every living creature which swarms where the river flows will live. There will be many fish, for these waters flow there. The symbolism is drawn from the cosmic mountain motif. It brings life and blessing everywhere the river goes. Does this make sense to you? This is cosmic mountain idea. It shows up in Revelation 21 and 22. The New Jerusalem has the river and it has the trees. But there's one other passage I'd like you to look at, John chapter 1. This is just rich. When Jacob saw the ladder, he said, "This is the gate of heaven. This is the house of God." Gate of heaven. Gate of heaven. Yes. In Akkadian, that is Bab Ilani, gate of the gods. No, the gate of the gods is not in Babylon. It is in Canaan, where God communicates with earth and sends the angels on ministries, and they come back to give account of themselves to God. Do you follow this? The point of connection between heaven and earth is the cosmic mountain, and it's the place where the great king dwells, and so it's the capital of the earth, where the destinies of the earth, where life and blessing flow. Does this make sense to you? There's much, much more to it than this. There's a book by R.J. Clifford called The Cosmic Mountain Motif. If you ever get interested in it, it's worth reading. It's in the library. I checked it out for my dissertation. So unless somebody has stolen it, Dr. Pond, take that back to the library. But chapter 1, go ahead and say it, brother. Okay, chapter 1, verse 50, John 1:50. Jesus said to him, "Because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree, do you believe? You will see greater things than these." He continued, "I tell all of you the solemn truth. You will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man." Now, Jesus is the cosmic mountain where the capital of the earth is, the destinies of the earth are determined, life and blessing flow out from him. But it gets better. Do you not know that you are the temple of God? You are the dwelling of the Holy Spirit, which you have from God. Do you not know this? Paul says. Then, brothers and sisters, you are the cosmic mountain. You are the capital of the earth. The earth is in rebellion against God, but you are the point of communion between heaven and earth. Life and blessing flow out to earth through you. This has enormous implications for ministry. One of the implications for ministry this has. I get emotional when I think about this. One day, I was in Lamb Auditorium for a church history class. Dr. Hannah was teaching the class. There were 120 of us in the class. That was nearly our whole class. Our whole graduating class was in that room. And Dr. Hannah walked in and he came across the room and put his books down on the lectern and he stood there like this for a minute. In a kind of broken voice, he said, "Men, whenever I come before you, I feel like a child in diapers coming before great men of God." And he prayed. And I thought, "Oh, Dr. Hannah, don't say that." But you know, if you are the cosmic mountain, if you're the temple of God, that has implications on how I should come before you. It has implications on how I should treat you, deal with you. You are people of infinite dignity. I have been to the Temple Mount. I know how I felt at the Temple Mount. I've been there 4 times. That's an amazing place to go. It's amazing. It is such a blessing. I have stood at a doorway on the western wall of the Temple Mount it's bricked up now, but the doorway leads to a passage that goes up to a chamber under the Holy of Holies. I've been within feet of the Holy of Holies. I know how I felt there. And that's only a place that God defiled. Yes? But you are a place that God has said, I will never leave you, nor will I ever forsake you. Then as I come before you, how must I treat you? How must I deal with you? You are the image of God. You are the temple of God. How must I treat you? Does this make any sense to you? Mm-hmm. Brothers and sisters, if we would take this attitude to our ministries, it would transform the church. So Jacob at Bethel, and he responds appropriately. Genesis 28, he sets up a sacred stone, names it Bethel, yes, house of God, anoints it with oil, and makes a vow. His vow is what? If you will take care of me and bring me back safely here, I'll give you 10% of everything that I have. Right? Amen. Genesis 29, you have the story of Jacob in Haran. Jacob has manipulated and schemed and turned everybody to his purposes up to this point. Yes? How is it that Laban is able to cheat him so easily? I mean, he's been there 7 years. He ought to know that the younger daughter never gets married before the older. So how is it that Laban's able to cheat him so easily?
He's drunk, isn't he?
He's drunk, but he wasn't drunk when he made the agreement to marry Rachel.
He's a 10-watt bulb in a 7-watt fountain.
I think he's a more intelligent man than that. But when you live your life by scheming and cheating, you lose the ability to recognize lies when you hear them. He can't recognize truth and lies. Jacob will be a man who, over his lifetime, will live by his wits, which means if he's living by his wits, and he's successful living by his wits up to a certain point, he's successful living by his wits, so he must be a man of some wit. Never get into a battle of wits with an unarmed man. So if he's in a battle of wits and wins, then he's not unarmed. Yes? But he has lived by cheating and scheming, and so he's lost the capacity for recognizing truth. And he's cheated. He's treated royally by Laban. He doesn't have to wait 7 more years to marry Rachel. 7 days he waits, but 7 years he works. And finally, he begins to amass wealth for himself. You have in these chapters the birth of these children. I haven't time to make the detail of it, but the wife who is honored is not the loved wife; it's the unloved wife, Leah. Leah is the one who gets the honor, and Leah is the one who names her children by the name of Yahweh. Rachel names the first children, the earliest children that she has through her maidservant, by the name Elohim, which probably suggests that Leah has a closer relationship with the Lord than Rachel has. I don't know whether I said that right, but that suggests that Leah has a closer relationship with the Lord than Rachel has. The naming is significant and expresses faith. But finally, God opens Rachel's womb. Isn't it interesting that the deliverer in each case comes to a barren wife? Because God always makes the circumstances impossible before he goes to work to fulfill the blessing. And the impossibility is part of his fulfillment. The long delay of the promise is part of his fulfillment. It's when God is working. The delay is not an indication that God is not at work. It's an indication that God is. We were in a faculty meeting in Memphis several years ago. The college, that poor little college, we tried to close it down so long. We worked hard closing that thing down. It's still going. The president, back in the 80s, we were $600,000 in debt, so he charged $10,000 to decorate his office and bought a new car on the college's loan credit. You know, just crazy stuff. In the early 90s, just crazy stuff. In the early 90s, the executive committee of the board met monthly to decide whether to keep the school open for one more month or not. And one day the president came in. This was in the 90s after that other fellow had gone. The president came into faculty meeting and he said, folks, we need to pray. We are in trouble financially. We don't have any money and I don't know where it's coming from. I was not very kind in that situation. I started laughing and Larry said to me, Jim, what in the world are you laughing for? I said, Larry, don't you see? God has always provided in the past, and he has brought us to this place where it's absolutely impossible so that he will be glorified. And you know that place is still kicking, and it's got now over 1,000 students. It's almost at a point of viability at this point. But, well, seriously, studies have shown that a college needs an enrollment of between 1,800 and 2,500 in order to be viable, consistently viable. So getting up to 1,000 students, it's almost getting to the point of being viable. So it may survive, who knows? Although they're departing from the school's doctrinal basis. The point, though, is to say that God is at work in the desperation of our circumstances. And when the moment of greatest desperation comes is when God goes most obviously to work. Our desperation, though, is on a different agenda than his. Because I get desperate long before the situation is really desperate. So I think God should go to work a whole lot earlier, but he always goes to work at exactly the right time. I just wish his time were a little quicker. But it's always God producing. And in chapter 30, you have Jacob providing for his family's wealth and future, and we're still 20 chapters short.